Amber Heard just gave an interview after losing the defamation trial against Johnny Depp. Anyone could expect a lot of body language to dissect, but there are also linguistic and behavior signals that can help you deal with narcissists and toxic personalities. Welcome back, my body language buddies. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy, and it would be great if you join us by just liking this video, subscribing, and hitting that bell. Let's get down to it. We're gonna start at the end with perhaps the strangest statement from this interview, when Savannah asked Amber if she still has love for Johnny.
Still have love for Johnny.
Yes.
Is that still true?
Yes.
After everything?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love him. I loved him with all my heart.
For all the times Amber tried to disguise her answers or outright avoid the questions entirely, this was a direct affirmation. She could have said, "I don't hold a grudge on him," or "the feelings I once had are no longer there, but that's okay," or even say, "I wish we both find peace." Now, regardless if you watch the trailer or not, what's relevant here is the direct nature of such an answer. And it has to do a lot with the damage control, but maybe not for the reasons you think. This is even more shocking if you immediately watch when Amber once again publicly declares that Johnny hit her.
He says he never hit you. Is that a lie?
Yes, it is.
Not one woman has come forward and said he physically hit them. You were the only one.
Look what happened to me when I came forward. Would you?
It is worth remembering that this is what started the whole ordeal. Amber has just said not only that Johnny hit her, but that he committed perjury. Amber's body language is controlled. A signal worth mentioning is that swallow right before Savannah wonders why no other woman has accused Johnny of any of this. Again, Amber could have said something like, "I can only speak for myself," and that would have been a great answer. But no, she had to imply that they are so afraid of Johnny that none of them has had the courage of coming forward about this. So this is deja vu talking about defamation again, but this is how Amber wants you to think about that evil defamation lawsuit.
Do you feel like you could be sued again by him for defamation?
I'm terrified, which is what I guess a defamation lawsuit is meant to do. It's meant to take your voice.
Yes, according to Amber, if someone sues you for defamation, it's not because you spread lies about them. It's because they are the evil ones trying to take your voice away. This is a typical narcissistic tactic when even if you have the right to defend yourself because they harmed you, they are gonna tell you to your face that you are the problem, that you are the one harming the relationship. And as usual, a common tactic is to distort or reframe your judgment. And in this case, it's your perception of the intentions behind a defamation lawsuit. But this gets worse, especially when Amber tells this flat-out lie.
Why did you do that if you wanted to just go on and put this past you?
Because the op-ed wasn't about my relationship with Johnny.
Wait, what? That sounds really different from what she said on her final cross-examination.
I know how many people will come out and say whatever for him. That's his power. That's why I wrote the op-ed. I was speaking to that phenomenon. How many people will come out in support of him and will fall to his power? That's why I wrote the op-ed.
Yeah, you can't help but spot Camille's reaction when Amber just slipped bad on that one. Props to Savannah, who insisted that the op-ed was unmistakably about Johnny.
But it alluded to him. It was unmistakable.
You know, what the op-ed was about was, me loaning my voice to a bigger cultural conversation that we were having at the time.
No body language needed here when Amber contradicted herself like this. There's a very interesting body language signal when Amber doubles down on her testimony. Let's see if you can spot it.
Do you stand by your testimony and your accusations against Johnny Depp?
Of course, and I will to my dying day. I know what happened to me. As a survivor, to my dying day, will stand by every word of my testimony.
You might have noticed that when she said "of course," she denied with her head. I've mentioned a few times that one has to be careful with this gesture, because it can be used for emphasis, such as my favorite example, delicious. So maybe she was emphasizing the words "of course," but when in doubt, you can always resort to the easiest body language tip That is to mimic the gesture. Go ahead, say "of course" out loud and deny with your head at the same time. Pay attention to how does it feel. Let me know about your experience in the comments. Now, we need to talk about Amber making funny references to Johnny's acting roles, such as...
After 3.5 weeks, I took the stand and saw the courtroom packed full of Captain Jack Sparrow fans who were vocal, energized, who had come from all ends of the world.
Well, to be fair, that was a literary figure, but the Edward Scissorhands moment was pure gold.
The Depp lawyer called your testimony the performance of a lifetime and said you were acting.
Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers.
Amber was pretty calm talking about what can only be considered as nonsense. Because you know he was acting, right? The only body language signal is her eyes going to her right, which we usually do when our brain enters creative mode. And boy, was she creative with that answer. Most of the time, body language signals are a reaction to something. For example, a question, or someone arrived, or something happened. But in some cases, these signals can precede what the person is about to say. Watch the next clip and try to spot the signal right at the start, and then what was Amber going to say immediately after that?
But what people don't understand is it's actually so much bigger than that. This is not only about our First Amendment right to speak.
Yes, there was rapid blinking at the start. We are talking about blinking 10 times in just 2 seconds. That is usually a signal of high anxiety. And that emotional display precedes what Amber was about to claim, that this was a matter of freedom of speech. I think deep inside she knew this was an absurd argument. Other times, Amber's words were not the problem, but the fact that she did not answer directly to questions. Watch the next clip and pay attention to her choice of words.
The Depp team argued that you were the abuser, that you instigated physical violence. Did you?
I never had to instigate it. I responded to it.
I always warn about unnecessary complex answers to simple questions. In this case, she said, "I never had to instigate it." A shorter, more direct version would have been, "I never instigated it." The inclusion of the words "had to" adds some sort of a smoke screen. It's like someone accuses you of eating that last pizza slice when you did not. So instead of saying, "I didn't," or "I didn't eat that last pizza slice," you go for, "I never had to eat that last pizza slice." Do you notice the difference now? It's a distraction. You begin to notice that Amber's slip-ups are almost 50-50 body language and verbal. Imagine that you're one of the jurors of the trial and you listen to this.
When you're living in violence and it becomes normal, as I testified to, you have to adapt. You adopt strategies to cope with it. If it meant the difference between a broken nose or a sore cheek.
First of all, I have my doubts about a true survivor saying that violence eventually becomes normal. Violence is never normal. But what really caught my attention was saying that she adopted strategies that could make the difference between a broken nose and a sore cheek. It means that she had to test those tactics until they made a difference. So she's implying that she went through a few broken noses until she found out the right prevention tactic. But you remember that she's got only one documented bruise that already raises enough doubts. Not to mention the doubts raised by the editing of this interview. The following clip was in the teasers, but not in the final program, and you're about to understand why it was conveniently left out.
I shouldn't have to have donated it in an effort to be believed. I shouldn't have had to earmark the entirety of that.
It's impressive that she can say, quite naturally, that she shouldn't have to donate the money in the first place, so people could actually believe that she donated the money. It's like I said, I shouldn't have to actually know how to fly an F-18 for people to believe that I can fly an F-18 if I claim it. And she wonders why the pledge versus donate argument hurt her credibility with the jury. Who could have thought? Props to Dave Neal from the channel The Dave Neal Show to spot this huge inconsistency between what we saw in the trailers and what was ultimately aired as the whole interview. And it's much easier if you watch the two following clips back to back.
But when you're in an abusive dynamic, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, you don't have the resources that, say, you or I do. But when you're in an abusive dynamic, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, you don't have the luxury of saying, hey, this is black and white, because it's anything.
Alright, that was some amazing editing sleight of hand. They deleted the part when Amber says that regular victims don't have the resources that, say, you and I do, effectively putting herself out of the group of victims. They shamelessly cut that off. And now that we mention it, why can't Warner Brothers do the same with her character in Aquaman 2? One more thing.
My goal, the only thing I can hope for at this point, I just want people to see me as a human being.
Yeah, because you know how everybody sees her by this point. If you want to refine your observation skills, all you have to do is download my 100 body language tips right in the description of this video. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas and it will always be a pleasure, my body language buddies. Much love and bliss.